world where COVID-19 is not the only pandemic people are trying to battle. The other pandemic that is far too familiar in America, the pandemic of racism and discrimination that killed George Floyd. I don't have the clicker. To better set the stage, on May 25th of 2020, George Floyd, a 46-year-old man, was detained by 4 Minneapolis officers. In this image, we can see an officer had him pinned down to the ground, holding him at a choke hold for approximately 8 minutes, as George Floyd said his final words, "I can't breathe," ultimately leading him to his death. Today, I am going to be talking to you about Benjamin Crump's speech and how he was able to use different rhetorical devices while also using ethos, pathos, and logos to get across to the audience the justice that George Floyd deserved. You might be asking yourself, who is Benjamin Crump? Benjamin Crump is a famous American attorney who, for this case, was also the Floyd's personal family attorney. He specializes in civil rights and personal injury cases. Benjamin Crump presented a speech at North Central University in Minneapolis, Minnesota on June 4th, 2020, shortly after George Floyd died.
On that video where we saw torture. Reverend Johnson, what we saw in that video was inhumane. Martin III, what we saw in that video was evil. And so America, we proclaim, as we memorialize George Floyd, do not cooperate with evil. Protest against evil. Join the young people in the streets protesting against the evil, the inhumane, the torture that they witnessed on that video. We cannot cooperate with evil. We cannot cooperate with injustice. We cannot cooperate with torture. Because George Floyd deserved better than that. See, on that video what we saw.
Significance then versus now. Benjamin Crump obviously gave his speech shortly after George Floyd died. What was so significant about this speech was that during this time, so many Americans were mad and ticked off about how George Floyd died. During his speech, he presented on behalf of every American who was also fighting justice for Floyd. He was able to make the audience feel as if they were able to make a difference and to use their voice and stand up against racism. During his speech, shortly after his speech, thousands of Americans protested in the streets going against racism. There have been protests across all 50 states in America. Why it will endure? This speech will definitely endure because Benjamin Crump was able to prove to the audience that racism and our criminal justice has been going on for not only May 25th, but for many, many years. After his speech, as you could tell, the audience were standing up applauding, and there were some people who were also crying, so he definitely touched the audience. Benjamin Crump did not fail to use ethos, pathos, and logos. He stated ethos by stating certain quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. and from the Declaration of Independence. He also used pathos by stating, George Floyd deserved better than that. We all deserve better than that. His family deserved better than that, and his children deserve better than that. Obviously, by using pathos, he's able to make the audience feel a certain emotional connection between what happened with George Floyd and his own family. And lastly, he used logos by stating past stats that have also happened from under police custody. He mentioned names of Tamir Rice, Michelle Brown, and Aaron Gardner. Benjamin Crump also used different rhetorical devices. The first one that he used was metaphor. Throughout his entire speech, he was comparing the way the police officers killed George Floyd to racism. The second rhetorical device that was found is unconviction. He quotes, "Do not cooperate with evil. Protest against evil. Join the young people in the streets protesting against evil." It is obviously very clear here that evil was being repeated over and over again. By stating that, he is able to make sure that the audience is tying in with the word evil and telling them to protest against racism, which is being defined as the evil. The last device that I was able to use was antithesis, in which he quotes, "What we want is not two justice systems in America. What we endeavor to achieve is equal justice for the United States of America." By stating this, he is comparing two different ideas, and that is what he is striving for America. It is very clear that Benjamin Crump is an excellent speaker, and he is very determined on finding the justice that George Floyd deserved. Through different rhetorical devices and ethos, pathos, and logos, he was able to persuade to his audience the justice that Floyd deserved. Thank you for listening.